to warn you guys right now, if it seems like I'm annoyed or agitated in today's video, it's probably because I am. I was making today's script, the losers of the 2023 offseason, and these same teams have been on the loser side of things for, what, the last half decade, upwards to a decade. They continually stink. I feel so bad for their fans, and the owners, they just don't seem to care. They're kicking dirt directly in the faces of their own fan base. Now, we've already talked about the winners of the offseason. If you missed that video, I'll go ahead and put it in the description down below. Make sure you guys watch it after today's video. And also, there is a handful of teams that didn't win the offseason, but they also didn't lose it. I put them in the meh category, and I swear, if I see one of these teams in the comments, Fuzzy, why didn't you talk about the Braves or the Dodgers?
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will...
Okay, it's not that serious, but all of these teams that you see in the meh, again, they were meh in the offseason. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it, the losers of the 2023 MLB offseason. I'm going to start off with the Rockies because they have been one of the most inept franchises in sports over the last half decade. They gave Nolan Arenado a bunch of money, and then they gave a bunch of money to the Cardinals to take Nolan Arenado, and he's only gotten better. Now going into 2023, after giving Chris Bryant a bunch of money, which confused me, and people were like, Fuzzy, isn't that hypocritical? You want there to be parity in baseball. You want players to go to different places, but then you get mad when the Rockies spend money on Chris Bryant. That's because the Rockies don't have a plan. Them giving Chris Bryant money doesn't solve anything. And going into 2023, they only added Nolan Jones, who I like, Pierce Johnson, Jose Urena, and Connor Siebel. And then the owner of the Rockies, Dick Monfort, has the unmitigated gall, this blasphemous comment to come out and say that the Rockies could finish 500. I'm so happy that's the goal in Colorado. I'm not happy. I am rioting in the streets. I am not going to games. The goal should not be 500. It should be playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs?
This next team might bother a few people because the Pirates, they did make a handful of pretty decent moves, but the thing about the Pirates, that's always what they do. They always settle for the scraps that other teams don't want anymore. Andrew McCutchen, that's a nice story. Rich Hill, he's like 75 years old, another nice story. But then Carlos Santana, I'm not saying that he's washed entirely. He's still good at getting on base, but you added Austin Hedges, Vince Velasquez, Connor Joe. Again, all of these are pretty average pieces, but you have Mitch Keller, who kind of broke out in 2022. Roansy Contreras, he looks solid as well. You have other young pieces like O'Neal Cruz and Brian Hayes, but of course what happens, you can't figure it out with Brian Reynolds behind the scenes. So between all these mid pieces and you're not trading Brian Reynolds and he's still not happy, you don't get a passing grade from me. I'm sorry. Losers. I mean, do we even have to talk about the Oakland Athletics? Now, my hot take is that the A's are completely dumping all of the salaries and their best players because they are salvaging every single nickel and penny that they can possibly find because they're going to move to Las Vegas. Now, I do think that Trevor May is good. I think that Aledmys Diaz, he has been underrated in the past, and I really, really love Daryl Hernaiz, the prospect that they got in the Cole Irvin trade. But we've seen what the A's have done in regards to the track record. They used to be pretty good at making trades, but these trades, we're not going to see the benefit of them for the next half decade. They absolutely stink going into 2023, so they're losers. Even though I love Hernaiz, I'm going to say that. Also, a lot of people out there do like Esteury Ruiz and JJ Bleday, so maybe they're forming a super team that's going to be really good in 4 or 5 years. Just for 2023's sake, I can't lie. They're terrible. The Kansas City Royals, I thought were going to be spending some money this year because they have a face of the franchise, a new one, Bobby Witt Jr., even though he wasn't great at getting on base and he was pretty terrible at defense. We know that he's going to be a superstar pretty soon. But they didn't really do much. They got Josh Taylor, Aroldis Chapman, so I guess those are two nice lefties in the bullpen. Jordan Lyles is not very good in my opinion. Zach Greinke, Ryan Yarbrough, Franmil Reyes. The Royals, not really much happening down there. We don't have to worry about them in the Central for a long time because they just don't do anything. This next team right here, I'm going to rant about them, and this might get me banned from Camden Yards and walking into the city of Baltimore, but I cannot believe the offseason that the Orioles just had. First of all, I love Daryl Hernaiz. I think that he has a higher ceiling than Cole Irvin. Cole Irvin is one of the more overrated pitchers in baseball, in my opinion. Everyone thinks that he's crafty. No, Cole Irvin is not that great, in my opinion. But then you factor in guys like Ryan O'Hearn, James McCann, Darwinzon Hernandez, Michael Givens, Adam Frazier, and Kyle Gibson. Again, just like the Pirates, maybe I'm being harsh, but it's because these teams have been so bad for so long. I don't trust them to turn these mid pieces into above average players. I don't think it's going to happen. The Orioles, so much positive momentum was built in 2023. They do still have top prospects like Gunnar Henderson, Grayson Rodriguez, DL Hall, so maybe they're trusting in the process and I just can't see the vision, but I feel like they were going to add some bigger pieces like Correa. That would have been a lot of fun. Instead, a very mid and borderline just pathetic offseason. Same with the Detroit Tigers, nothing to write home about them. Now, one thing about the Tigers I will admit is they were absolutely demolished and ravaged by injuries last year. Maybe they're banking on guys to be healthier, but then again, Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize, they're going to be missing some time. So Matthew Boyd, Michael Lorenzen, Matt Vierling, Donnie Sands, Nick Maton, I mean, the Tigers right now are one of the most boring teams in baseball. I don't know, maybe they expect Riley Green to be the second coming of Grady Sizemore and Spencer Torkelson to be the next Miggy. I mean, I hope that's the case because I love Miggy and Grady. But yeah, the Tigers, they did not win this offseason, and it's pretty clear. If you're a Reds fan, I just want to say my heart goes out to you. It's been a rough last few years, and adding Luke Weaver is kind of cool. Will Myers has been exciting in the past. Luke Mailey, he's decent at getting on base for a catcher. Will Benson, he was with the Guardians, he's all right. But then Kevin Newman and Nick Solak, kind of just adding to the theme of today's video, a very mid to pathetic offseason. Teams that don't care about winning, and it's not even like tanking really exists in baseball, or I guess it kind of does, but then again, when you sign a guy out of high school, you're not gonna have that as a benefit for the next half decade. It's just so weird. The Chicago White Sox, yes, they gave money to Andrew Benintendi. Benny Biceps got paid. Mike Clevenger was picked up, but I don't know if Mike Clevenger is even going to play in 2023. There's a lot of stuff happening off the field. Elvis Andrus and Gregory Santos, I expected the White Sox to have an explosive offseason. They know that Lucas Giolito is probably going to bounce back. He sucks and then he's good. He sucks and then he's good. I expect Dylan Cease to be really good, Lance Lynn to bounce back, and all of their other pieces like Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, praying that they stay healthy. And because of all of that, I thought that they were going to spend some money and bring in a big bopper of an outfielder, not Andrew Benintendi. Maybe I'm just a hater, but I don't really think that Andrew Benintendi is someone that's going to save the White Sox, but maybe that's just me. And then last but not least, a team that should be just thrown away, the Washington Nationals. How have they done this? In the last few years, they've given contracts, like some of the worst contracts in history, to Steven Strasburg and Patrick Corbin. They lost Anthony Rendon, which I guess in hindsight, that's turning out to be something that they won. But then you lose Bryce Harper. He went out and won an MVP. Juan Soto has been really good. All of the pieces that you got in the Soto trade, they haven't really made an impact yet because CJ Abrams, he's only played a handful of games. And then you have this offseason, Trevor Williams, he's all right. I think they stole him from the Mets. Jamir Candelario, he's been good in the past. Corey Dickerson, Dom Smith, Michael Chavis, and Erasmo Ramirez, kind of bigger names, but I'm going to go ahead and put them in the loser category as well because even though things might be happening behind the scenes, I don't think any of the players that we just mentioned are game changers. And to me, because of that, the Nationals, they're still going to stink in 2023 and 2024. Maybe it'll start looking better in 2025 as Steven is finally healthy and then they bring up some of their top pitching prospects like Cade Cavalli. Maybe he works out. But for me, the Washington Nationals, boring. It's fine. They're just going through a rebuild, I guess. I don't know. It's not fine. So that's my rant for today. I know I was a bit more animated than usual, but I needed to have these teams back because these fans, these poor fans are clinging on with every last fiber of hope that they have in their body, and I just feel terrible. I mean, if you're an A's fan, a Rockies fan, a Pirates fan, a Royals fan, Orioles, all the teams that we talked about, it's been a pretty sad and pathetic existence over the last half decade, so I hope it turns around soon. So what do you guys think of these videos, the winners and the losers? Before the season starts, I will be talking about every single team, including the meh teams, and I'm going to give every team in baseball a grade A to F. So I'll catch you guys there. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Have a good day.